waking up in a cold, sterile room. You don't know where you are. Your head pounds and your thoughts slip away like smoke. The last thing you remember is sitting with friends. Then, nothing. A nurse hands you a glass of water, but you don't know it's laced with a drug that will twist your mind into knots. This was the nightmare reality for countless people caught in the shadows of MK Ultra, a secret CIA program that ran from 1953 to 1973, designed to bend, break, and control the human mind. MK Ultra was more than a government experiment. It was a covert war waged on the psyche of innocent citizens, soldiers, prisoners, patients, many unwitting, all betrayed. One survivor described it years later. My mind was no longer my own. It was as if my thoughts were ripped apart and sewn back wrong. Another said, I heard voices when no one was there. I feared my own reflection. Hundreds of victims told similar stories: hallucinations, memory loss, personality fractures, their lives forever changed by drugs like LSD administered without consent, sensory deprivation, hypnosis, and psychological torture. At the Allen Memorial Institute in Canada, psychiatrist Dr. Ewan Cameron, funded secretly by the CIA, experimented on psychiatric patients who never agreed to be test subjects. Some were subjected to psychic driving, where audio loops played for hours or days while their minds were chemically wiped clean. MK Ultra's roots trace back to World War II. Nazi doctors conducted horrific drug experiments on concentration camp prisoners, seeking truth serums for interrogation. After the war, the U.S. recruited many of these scientists through Operation Paperclip, harnessing their knowledge for its own shadow wars. The Cold War was a time of acute paranoia. American intelligence agencies feared Soviet and Chinese brainwashing, especially after reports of POWs returning from Korea with altered minds. In response, the CIA launched Project Bluebird and Project Artichoke in the early 1950s, experiments in hypnosis, drugs, and interrogation. By 1953, these programs coalesced into MK Ultra, overseen by Sidney Gottlieb, the CIA's infamous poisoner-in-chief. The goal? To develop mind control techniques powerful enough to create programmable assassins, spies, or agents who could resist enemy brainwashing, the so-called Manchurian candidates. MK Ultra's reach was vast. Over 150 sub-projects at more than 80 institutions, funded through secret slush funds and front organizations. The experiments were brutal and wide-ranging. Subjects were dosed with LSD, mescaline, psilocybin, scopolamine, heroin, amphetamines, and BZ, a terrifying super hallucinogen. Sensory deprivation tanks plunged people into endless darkness and silence, shattering their grip on reality. Electroshock therapy was administered at high voltages to de-pattern the mind, a process to erase and rebuild personalities. The CIA even operated safe houses known as Operation Midnight Climax, brothels where prostitutes dosed clients with LSD while agents observed from behind one-way mirrors. One of the darkest stories is that of Frank Olson, a CIA biochemist. In 1953, Olson was dosed with LSD without his knowledge during a CIA retreat. In the days that followed, he suffered paranoia and delusions. Then he fell, or was pushed, from a New York hotel window. The CIA ruled it a suicide. But years later, an exhumation revealed head injuries consistent with homicide. Olson's family sued the CIA, settling in 1976, but questions remain unanswered. MK Ultra remained hidden for decades until the 1970s, when investigative journalists and Senate committees exposed its horrors. The 1975 Church Committee and Rockefeller Commission hearings revealed parts of the program, though most files had been destroyed on orders from CIA Director Richard Helms in 1973. A 1977 Freedom of Information Act request unearthed roughly 20,000 documents, misfiled and heavily redacted, exposing over 30 institutions complicit in these experiments. The Senate hearings revealed at least one death and hundreds of victims who suffered irreversible harm. The human cost was staggering. Victims were often unaware they were part of psychological warfare. Some never fully recovered, grappling with lifelong amnesia, personality disorders, and trauma. At the Allen Memorial Institute in Canada, hundreds of Canadian psychiatric patients suffered de-patterning. Many left incontinent or with permanent memory loss. Soldiers at Edgewood Arsenal were subjected to drug testing without consent, with reports of forced participation in LSD trials and psychological torture. MKUltra quickly became the source of wild conspiracy theories, tales of mind-controlled assassins, mass manipulation, and government puppeteers. While the program was real and unethical, evidence shows it never achieved the fantastical Manchurian candidate level of control. Instead, it was a tragic, often clumsy, attempt at behavioral science steeped in paranoia and hubris. Though MKUltra officially ended decades ago, its legacy lives on. It eroded public trust in intelligence agencies and spurred new laws to govern human experimentation. Whispers persist. Some claim MKUltra's techniques evolved into modern surveillance, psychological operations, or media manipulation. Experts warn we must remember these dark chapters and guard against repeating them under new names. Project MKUltra is a cautionary tale about power, secrecy, and the cost of fear-driven science. It reminds us that the human mind is not a weapon to be wielded in the shadows, but a fragile vessel deserving respect and protection. The shadows of MKUltra still linger, a ghost story written not in myth, but in real lives broken by hidden hands. MKUltra officially ended decades ago, but what if the shadows it cast never fully disappeared? What if behind the walls of secrecy, in hidden labs or government facilities we'll never see, experiments continue, more refined, more insidious, but just as dangerous? The true extent of such programs may be locked away forever, buried beneath layers of classified files and silence. It's a chilling thought that the mind, our most private sanctuary, could still be a battlefield. And while we look away, the question remains, how much do we really know about what's happening in the shadows?